What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Cycle 365. It is episode 32, and we are recording this on May 13th, 2020. I'm one of your co-hosts, Simon Villanos.
And I'm Cody Stoffer.
And we're here to bring you a variety of content on today's episode. So, we're going to talk about UFC 249, return of... Well, I don't want to disrespect other sports that have been going on, but essentially this is the return of sports. Would you agree?
I mean, it is the biggest event in at least American sports going on right now that's not electronic.
Yes, that's important. It really is. But I feel like UFC 249 really didn't disappoint. It was super entertaining from the prelims all the way up. And yeah, so we're just going to cover some of these fights to start off. So again, we're gonna start off with the only all-female fight of the night. It was, I want to say it was the strawweight division, right?
Yep.
Between fighters that were ranked 8 and 9 in Michelle Waterson and I want to say it's Carla Esparza. I really hope I'm not butchering their name.
They were 7 and 8.
7 and 8
going into it. So.
Hey, yeah, both of these fighters are pretty good. You know, they're fighters that obviously are contending. This is obviously a step fight, right? You got to in this kind of fight to get a bigger kind of fight, a more, I guess, you know, a bigger that could get you up to the next level when it comes to contending, right?
A chance for the belt is basically what they were competing for.
Yeah, pretty much, just to have that chance. You know, or be considered to have that chance. It's you know how it is. So let's see. So we're just gonna start off with how it ended. I would say I mean I don't know how else we would start this out. Carla Esparza did end up winning this fight, and some may see this as a fight that was pretty surprising. Like it was pretty close, I would say, and there were definitely some people who would give it to Michelle Waterman just by a little bit. But in my opinion, I think it was pretty obvious that Carla Esparza won the fight. That is, if you watch the whole fight. Cody, did you have anything you wanted to add? I mean, am I wrong here or what?
I actually kind of thought that Waterson had a really good chance to win this. I think that she was in way more control. And, I mean, Esparza only succeeded at one takedown the entire fight on, I feel like there was 10 or 11 attempts. So Waterson did a great job of staying off the ground, and she did a great job. She kicked the heck out of Esparza. I mean, she was landing good kicks to her legs, good kicks to her midsection. I mean, Esparza had a lot of good connections up top and definitely was way more aggressive in the final round. But I wouldn't say it was completely obvious, you know. I think that both fighters were pretty conservative, I'd say, in this fight. And I feel like that played to Esparza's advantage because she was already higher ranked and Waterson needed to try and go and get it, but she played way more conservatively. She fought more conservatively.
Right. I feel like Michelle Waterson definitely had her opportunities to win this. Like, in my opinion, I think she's a better all-around fighter. That's just what I believe. You know, but I mean, like you said, Esparza is ranked above her, and she did push the tempo a little bit more. And honestly, okay, it wasn't super obvious that, you know, she was going to win the fight. It was still a pretty close fight altogether. If you take in the whole thing, you know, in the first round, I would say that Waterson kind of, you know, she had a pretty good control on it until, like, maybe I'd say the last minute or so when Esparza had that huge takedown. Sure. And then that kind of sort of changed the tides. The second round, I would say that Esparza definitely was more aggressive, and you know, maybe some of her takedowns weren't connecting. She kind of had a weird way of going about it. She was trying to initiate her takedowns from really far away, which kind of just
that was
a lot of.
I mean, that was a huge reason that Waterson didn't end up going to the ground, is just because the takedown like buildups were so poor, honestly. So
that's facts. Yeah. And I mean, there are times that she had some pretty nice takedowns, you know, I would say, but Waterson just had better defense. You know, it happened. But altogether in the second round, I definitely felt like Esparza pushed the tempo and got after her. And then in the third round, she just finished it off.
I was just going to say the third round is definitely, Esparza won the third round. Like, there's no question about that. And I think that it shows a lot that this fight came down to 1 point, you know, like how closely the judges decided it. So I think if that doesn't tell you what you need to know about how close this fight was, then I'm not sure what'll do it for you.
That's fair. Do you think the fact that there weren't many fans, or really any fans in this crowd, because there weren't, I don't think we mentioned that yet. Do you think that had any, influence on this fight? Because I know, the fans, you could really gauge like which side has the momentum by their reactions. I feel like Waterman just didn't have a good feel or the momentum. Like, I feel like she felt really comfortable that she was ahead most of the fight, which is why she didn't push the effort. So do you think the lack of fans was a considerable variable in the fact that Waterson didn't close out the fight probably as well as she could have? Because I know the fans is a pretty good indicator of when momentums are shifting, and maybe in Waterson's head she just felt like she was ahead the whole time, but in reality it really didn't seem that way.
I mean, you could see that Waterson was pretty disappointed at the final result. She felt pretty confident that with the 3 points that the first judge awarded her as a difference, that she had the fight in the bag. And then to find out that the second judge ruled in favor of Esparza by 1 point and the third judge ruled in favor of Esparza by 3, she's definitely disappointed. However, I think that the fans not being present played more to Waterson's advantage, if I'm being completely honest, because, I mean, the number one thing, the responsibility of fans at UFC is to boo when the fight is boring, when no one's getting hit, right? And that puts psychological pressure on the fighters to get in and swing more and go for the home run. And I think that plays to Esparza's advantage, honestly, just because of her tenacious fight style and how aggressive she is and was in this fight, that she should be. I feel like she feeds off the crowd a lot more, and Waterson actually benefited from the atmosphere. And I think that if she was going to win against Esparza, it was going to be now. And she just didn't capitalize on a great first round. I think she thought that Esparza was going to be more tired out after kicking her in the legs a bunch. Like, it tired out my legs. I could feel like the Charlie horses, man. Those legs, those kicks were ridiculous, but she just didn't capitalize on it and got caught sleeping, I guess. So, but the fan presence is huge in UFC. I mean, it is huge in any sport, but especially UFC, just to get the ball rolling, I guess.
No, that's facts. And we saw that in all the fights, or most of them, throughout this UFC 249, But hey, I mean, it happened. It's still a fight, though, It's still sports. I mean, as an athlete, you still got to perform. And, I mean, it came down to a couple points at the end, so it wasn't like it was a terrible performance by Waterson, honestly.
No, it was entertaining, and, yeah. But
it was a solid one.
Yeah. And we'll probably see Esparza competing for a belt here in the future. And their fight was originally scheduled for April 11th. So they've had a long time to prepare.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so moving on. This fight is a fight that, I wouldn't say it was underrated, but a lot of people tuned in and they were entertained. And I felt like this was a pretty entertaining fight. But I'm talking about the fight between Henry Cejudo and Dominique Cruz. And look, I'll be honest, I really did have Dominique Cruz. Okay, I mean, I had Dominique Cruz winning this fight. That was my prediction. And so it was a little bit surprising that Henry Cejudo, at least to me, came out and, honestly, okay, I don't want to say dominated, but he really did well at just controlling all aspects of the fight for the most part, in my opinion.
I mean, I think dominate is an appropriate word for this fight. Cruz looked really rusty coming back out, and I think he was coming off of some procedure or something, I believe, between his last fight and this fight. So I think that might have had something to do with it. And, I mean, for Cejudo, he just came out aggressive, and he stayed aggressive the whole time. I mean, his look by the end of the fight is deceptive because, I mean, you know, if you look up like pictures from the fight, he looks pretty bloody, but that was just from like an incidental headbutt. It wasn't from anything Cruz really did on the offensive side of the fight to cause that to happen.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Okay, so then, yeah, it is fair to say that he did dominate the fight. There was a little bit of controversy, though, right? It was this fight where the ref may have prematurely stopped it. You saw that too, right? I felt like it was a little premature.
I mean, I feel like the result, it still ends there, maybe with just a couple seconds of difference. I mean, because Cejudo was on top of him, so I think it was only a matter of time before. I mean, the whole point of like TKO is so that somebody doesn't get KO'd, you know? And as a viewer, of course, I want them to just knock each other out, but at the same time, you know, but with the emphasis on athlete/player safety, you know, I mean, it's definitely a ruling that I can see happening. And I mean, Cejudo still wins this fight, in my opinion, regardless of whether the ref stops it there or whether the ref stops it after Cruz is knocked out. So,
right. And that's facts. I mean, no, I totally get it. Cejudo, I mean, either way, he probably still would have won this fight, so it really didn't matter. I think Dominick Cruz just felt some type of way because maybe he felt like he could have gotten away with it, because I know it was pretty close at the end of the round too. So maybe he felt like he could survive to the end of the round. You know, it happened the way it did.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot you can do with that. But I mean, that's that. It's not the last that we'll see of Cruz, for sure. But it is the last that we are supposedly going to see of Cejudo.
Very true, yeah. So he did announce his retirement at the end of UFC 249. Well, at the end of his fight. And I hear some people thought it was surprising, but from what I've heard from Dana White, and then, you know, obviously some of the commentators and people that are close to Cejudo, that this was something that wasn't, you know, out of the question. Like, it was something that he's kind of been pondering for a little bit. And it just happened that he announced it, you know, after that fight.
Yeah, I think that this is a great ending for Cejudo, who secured his second belt, I believe, right? Because he went up into this weight class. And, you know, I mean, 33 years old, I don't want to get punched in the head for a living when I'm 33 years old, man. So, like,
yeah.
I don't blame him.
No, for sure. Do you think there's a possibility that he potentially comes back after, you know, resting a bit? Because 33 is still pretty young for a UFC fighter, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that the UFC could definitely get one more main card event out of him, if I'm being completely honest, from like a marketing standpoint and from a fan buy-in standpoint. So, you know, and he's exciting to watch too. So he definitely, like, he sells pay-per-views, and, you know, when people are allowed to attend, he puts butts in seats. So I think it'd be smart of Dana White to stay in close contact with Cejudo, and, you know, if we get some new fighter who wants to challenge him, then go ahead. I could see it not going well for Cejudo, honestly, unless he keeps training like he is in the UFC, because that's just how it works. You don't step away and come back in the UFC and just win, really. That's just not how the scape works, unless you're John Jones, I guess. But but I mean, I think Cejudo should step away, but I could see him still fighting in the future, just because, I mean, we've seen it before. So
that's fair. I mean, I agree.
I was just gonna say, I'm pretty sure Randy Couture retired like 2 times. Same with like Rich Franklin. So, like,
yeah, I get that. And maybe, you know, this is a fight that Dana White kind of holds until after all of this quarantine stuff is done, because I don't think you want to have any, let's say, huge name, big name fights until fans could actually go and attend, because they're losing money off of that, you know? I mean, because, you know, obviously there's pay-per-view and stuff, but, like, people will stream it anyways. So there's that. So I think that might be the plan moving forward.
For sure.
All right, so fight of the night, our boy Justin. Hey, dude, I was so proud of Justin Gaethje. Look, last Saturday, Cody, myself, and then Jesse were supposed to graduate from the University of Northern Colorado. That was the day we were supposed to have our graduation ceremony. Obviously, pretty much all ceremonies in the country, in the world, they've been canceled. And, it's going to be rescheduled for December, but that doesn't make that Saturday that much more, I guess, emotional or weird. So I was super excited for UFC 249 because not only was, it was sports coming back, it was also our guy, Justin Gaethje. So now we're all fellow UNC alum. He was somebody that came from the University of Northern Colorado, was a famed wrestler over there, and then made his name in the UFC. And, he made UNC proud that day. I guess that night, if you want to be specific about it. And it was awesome to watch. It was a great graduation present. And honestly, it was just a great fight all around. I was entertained.
It was definitely a phenomenal fight, and Sko Bears, baby. But sure. I love all the articles about Gaethje having to clarify where UNC is. Like they have to clarify that it's the one in Greeley, Colorado. But I mean, Tony Ferguson is not some scrub either.
Oh,
like Gaethje had to earn this fight, and Ferguson made him work for it. I mean, Ferguson is really tanky, and we saw him get hit relentlessly by Gaethje basically the whole fight. I mean, there wasn't really a dull moment in that fight, regardless of no fans being there. But I mean, another thing that I noticed was that the coaches and the trainers on the side, they were being pretty loud, honestly.
Yes.
So, I mean, when you bring that kind of energy in, even as like a trainer or coach or something, then that can be that we could hear it. We could actually hear what they were saying as watching it online, and also just watching them get popped. You could hear the thwaps, and it was relentless in this match.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And to talk on Tony Ferguson, he really isn't a scrub. He's the type of fighter that's very annoying to fight against. So his athleticism and his fitness is through the roof, at least aerobically, I would say. His stamina and his chin, it's insane. Like, the dude really doesn't get tired. Really, the worst game plan you could have going into this is trying to tire out Tony Ferguson. He doesn't get tired. That's just how that works. And then in addition, his fighting style is very unique. His movements are very, they're quirky, I would say. He creates a lot of very interesting angles, and I would say scenarios that could happen with
his
some of the
combos
angles.
Are very unorthodox.
They are. That makes it even harder to go up against, because Tony Ferguson's the type of guy that'll wait you out. You're not gonna wait him out, and he's the type of guy that could honestly knock you out at any given moment if you're not careful. And I'll be honest, the issue with Justin Gaethje before this fight, I would say, was that he would get overly aggressive sometimes. And we saw some of that throughout the five. Well, hold up, it wasn't 5 rounds, was it? It was 4 rounds.
No, it was in round 5. It didn't make it all the way through round 5, though.
Okay, so basically 5 rounds, right? So I was right. Yeah, so basically 5 rounds.
4.5. No, I'm just joshing.
No, I got you. But there were times throughout this fight that Gaethje was caught a little bit overly aggressive. Like, there were some punches that he threw that were meant to kill. Instead, he just whiffed on them. And those aren't energy savers, obviously. That hurts your stamina when you put so much effort into that. And you could hear his coach tell him, like, hey, look, you need to chill out a little bit because you're wasting some of this energy. Like, stay disciplined. And in my opinion, Gaethje did a really good job, like just staying disciplined throughout this whole fight. And this, you could tell that he put in a lot of work to get better, because that was, like I said, that was something that he struggled with, that discipline, knowing when to, turn it off a little bit, when to reset, knowing when that momentum is, gone, rather than trying to force it. And that's why he won the fight, honestly, because he was patient. He was, oh man, he was just great with it. Honestly, he was disciplined. That's all I could really say.
I'm nodding aggressively because you said exactly what I was thinking. He looked so fundamentally sound in this fight, especially compared to, like you said, what he normally does. And I mean, it was, spectacular for him to stay disciplined and for him to keep staying on top of Ferguson too. Like, he was absolutely relentless. I'd say that the biggest scare that Gaethje had came at the end of this second round, I think, when Ferguson hit him with that uppercut. I thought that might have been it, honestly. That was a really good uppercut, bro. But Gaethje managed to shrug it off, and that was near the end of the round, so he just tried to make it to the end and came back out swinging. But swinging smart.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah. No, I agree that there are a couple punches throughout this fight that really got me thinking, like, wow, this might change the whole thing. Some game changers. Obviously, Gaethje, he's no scrub. Like, he's an athletic dude. He's not as athletic, or I guess, how would I say it? Stamina-wise, not as great as Ferguson, but he still has a chin. He could take a couple punches, but there are definitely a couple scares throughout this whole fight. But altogether, like I said, he was fundamentally sound. Defensively, he was fantastic. Like, the slips he would have, and just knowing when to time those slides and whatnot, and blocking and parrying, like, it was great. Like, he honestly did as good as he could possibly do defensively throughout the whole fight, while obviously still having that offensive game to him.
Yeah, it was a great match, and Gaethje now has a chance whenever things go normal to fight against Khabib, and that'll be the biggest challenge that he has yet. Khabib is, he's an absolute manimal. He's beat the top guys over and over again, and he's proven himself, and Gaethje hopes to change that, but we'll definitely see what happens.
You think, because I know there are some people that are giving Gaethje the advantage over Khabib as of right now because of this performance, do you think Gaethje goes into this goes into this Khabib fight, whenever it does happen, as the underdog, or as the guy that's that actually can take this belt away from Khabib?
I think he's definitely going to be the underdog, just like he was in this Ferguson fight. Khabib's a bad dude. And Gaethje, he was on the wrestling team, right?
Yes.
He's gonna need everything he has if Khabib gets this to the ground, because we've seen Khabib do it over and over and over again. And that's another thing that, Ferguson has faced off against Khabib, right? And Ferguson also doesn't mind standing up and fighting, but Khabib is just a completely different animal when he gets to the ground. So we'll see how that fight goes. If I was Gaethje, I would probably try and stay up and not bring it to the mat. No disrespect, of course.
Oh, for sure. And obviously, Gaethje has that wrestling background, and he wasn't a scrub at UNC too. He was an All-American. He really did help build that wrestling program to where it is now, and it is one of the best in the nation. By the way, I think that's important to point out. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I don't want to say anything I'll regret.
Yeah, I'm also going to leave it there. I think that's excellent. Good call.
Oh yeah. So there are rumors that Gaethje might go up against Conor McGregor first, and I said this months ago because I got to meet Justin Gaethje, right? And I made the post and I was kind of explaining who he was to people who didn't know who he was yet. I'd say, yeah, this is the guy who's going to fight Conor McGregor next. And I would love to see him fight Conor McGregor. know, I'm personally a huge Conor McGregor fan, which I know a lot of people aren't, but Conor McGregor was probably one of the first UFC fighters that I've been following his career since like he basically first started. And he wasn't the guy that got me into UFC. I would say that would probably be George St. Pierre or BJ Penn. But Conor McGregor was my guy for the longest time and still kind of is my guy. I know he makes some stupid decisions, but I would really love to see him go up against Justin Gaethje, another guy that I like a lot, and just see what happens because I think that would be an entertaining fight.
Yeah, I personally think that Gaethje deserves to fight Khabib more.
Right.
Just because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it would draw on headlines and it'd be really cool to see. But Khabib is the champion right now, not McGregor. And McGregor just hasn't shown the same level of commitment to the sport that Khabib has. And I borderline think it would be even disrespectful to Gaethje to not give him the chance to go for the belt, like the combined belt when those two inevitably face off.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. I agree, but at the same time, with this whole Corona thing, it kind of does question like, would a Gaethje Khabib fight do better than a Gaethje McGregor fight? Because either way, if you put on any of those fights, you're gonna lose money. You'd rather pick the one where you would lose the least amount of money. Right? I feel like more people would rather watch a title fight than Gaethje McGregor fight.
I mean, they're definitely more accessible to fight McGregor, I believe. So, I mean, that's a good point to bring up. But from a integrity of the sport stand, that's the one. Those are the words I'll use. I believe that Gaethje deserves to fight Khabib, and that should be the fight. But if Gaethje faces McGregor and whoops up on him too, I'd be okay with that. So.
I mean, I would too, not gonna lie. I really would too.
But
is that it? Do you have any last comments about UFC 249?
I don't believe so. Today, while recording, there's some fights happening right now, I'm pretty sure. Not main card event, obviously, but some little fights going on right now on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. Did we timestamp it at the beginning?
We did.
Oh, well, now they know twice.
Yeah, there you go. Repetition. All right. Hey, that was our first UFC segment. Basically, we've never done this before.
Yeah, it's only the second time I've even reported on UFC since even starting out SON. So, look at that. Look at us. Who thought we'd be here?
And we both watch UFC, and, well, boxing too, like quite a bit, I would say. So, it's kind of weird that it's taken up to the 32nd episode to do.
I mean, I definitely watched less than when I was a kid because Rich Franklin was my hero, and watching him get knocked out kind of demoralized me. But we'll definitely do some all-time stuff, all-time talk sometime. But yeah, there's more coming up. I mean, if UFC keeps coming on and other sports don't, then we'll have to talk about it. So
yeah, no, for sure. All right, so coming up next, we're going to talk about the G League, specifically a number of high school prospects, basketball prospects that is, that have joined the NBA G League instead of going to college. Coming up next.
Welcome back to the Cycle 365, episode 32, recorded May 13th, 2020. I am one of your co-hosts, Cody Stoffer.
I'm the other one, Simon Voyenos.
And Jesse will be joining us a bit later. But right now we are going to be talking G League basketball and what it means for the NCAA. For those who don't know, there have been so far 2 top 15 recruits who have decided to go to the G League rather than play college basketball. One of the notable ones is Isaiah Todd, power forward, who will be playing. He's the 14th highest ranked recruit on ESPN Top 100 Recruits for Basketball. And Jalen Green, the #1 recruit, has decided to also go to the G League. Simon, what do you think of these moves from these high schoolers deciding to basically play, I'm going to call it semi-pro basketball over collegiate basketball, and what does it mean for the future of the NCAA and the NBA?
So we've talked about NCAA, well, okay, the NCAA in general, and then we've talked about NCAA basketball to a degree because it did come out a bit ago that the G League was starting a new program for basically kids coming out straight out of high school. And I think this is great, honestly, because, and here, let me backtrack a little bit. For Jalen Green, he is the top prospect, and he is extremely impressive. He's somebody that, I mean, I don't want to say this too much because, you know, some may see as disrespectful, but
oh no,
reminds me a lot of Kobe Bryant. You know, he's a shooter, he's ultra athletic, he's tough. Like, he's been that dude for a while, and he's been somebody that a lot of people has seen as a threat. You know, like he's been a consensus #1 overall pick type of guy for years now, basically since high school. Since he started high school, I would say. And he's a bad dude. And so him going to the G League is huge. And I think it'll help his game out a lot more because he's finally going against competition, you know, that could push him a little bit, because some would say that he's had it kind of easy, honestly, playing against other high schoolers because he is that talented. Same with Isaiah Todd, you know, and they're just, I mean, they're killing it on the high school level. So a lot of people did say that they would kind of have like the Zion effect when they hit the NCAA, or college basketball in general. But now they're going to the G League where, you know, they could get their pro career started. And I love it because these are two players that are extremely talented, and they need to be pushed like this, because I think going to college, like, it's great, but if you're only going for 1 year, it could definitely get you a little bit complacent if you're not careful.
I'd also like to point out that Greg Brown, the number 8th recruit on ESPN Top 100, was considering the G League before signing with U of T. I want to counter a little bit what you said, Simon, from a competition standpoint. While I feel these going to the G League is obviously a higher level of competition than high school. I'm not going to disagree with that because I would just objectively be wrong. However, I do think that these cats might be missing out on a higher level of competition that they'd see at the collegiate level rather than at the G League level. Because, I mean, these guys, these guys, they would have. So let me just list off some of the schools who were recruiting Jalen Green, who offered him a scholarship: Oregon, Auburn, Kentucky, University of Arizona, you know, UCLA, UConn, Villanova. I mean, these are no pushover schools that also see high levels of competition, and he would face off against other top prospects in the nation at the collegiate level. Versus now, where he's going to be facing the guys, I mean, no offense to G League players. I mean, they're still significantly better at basketball than I'll ever be. But these are the guys who, for the most part, couldn't make the league. As it stands right now, pre all these recruits coming in.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's definitely one way of looking at it. I mean, another way is that, like, still in the G League, like, those are the type of players that were still some of the best at one point in college basketball. Or high school basketball, else they wouldn't be there. And that's how I'm kind of seeing it. You know, like, they're a step up slightly from college basketball prospects. I don't know about college basketball teams though, because that's a whole different thing. You know, but I would say from a prospect standpoint, I think I would argue that, you know, guys like Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd are facing dudes who have that experience already, who are experienced and are basically pros and can push them, if not physically, then mentally.
Okay.
You know, I might just not be able to.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with you. And as you were talking, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, the experience is something that you don't face at the collegiate level. However, I feel that these cats aren't going to be coming in with that drastic of a difference in mental preparedness than most college athletes that do the one and done route.
Sure. No, I mean, I get that. There's, different scenarios for every player and team, obviously. I get that. I think another thing to keep in mind is this whole coronavirus thing has definitely affected sports altogether. There's no doubt about it. And for, high schoolers that basically have been robbed of their senior year and are moving forward into college or, going or semi-pro potentially, I think going to the G League is a little bit more of a better guarantee than going to a college. And I'm saying that because I know there are some colleges, specifically in California, that are probably not going to compete against teams out of state. And that might be a really big deal for some of these players who are one and done and who really need this one season to be a good one, And so Jalen Green is from Fresno, California, right? So, it's not out of the question to say that he would compete he would go to a school in California and then only be limited to California competition. And that might be a problem for him. It could hurt his draft stock. Whereas in the G League, that is something that obviously is funded by the NBA. And it's not like baseball or hockey where there are multiple levels of it. It's just the G League, right? So there's basically just, one set of teams for the NBA to sponsor and to help lift up during these tough financial times. And I think that's a little bit more of a guarantee to happen than maybe going to college and it possibly not happening, or going to a college and them not playing the type of opponents that you would hope to. Because as of right now, I'm not completely sure if March Madness would happen next year to the full extent as it usually is.
I mean, you and I both know that normal means that a vaccine is out, right? Sure. And we're probably at least, like the fastest, a year away from that. So we could go another year without March Madness. We very well could. And timing is everything about this, especially because the G League, their package so this is a phenomenal move by the NBA on its part, because they know that a lot of these kids don't want to go to college for 1 year. There's a lot of backlash about it, especially if injuries happen, during that 1 year in college. There's definitely no incentive to stay past 1 year if you're a top 10 pick. So the NBA knows this, and NCAA knows this, so I can't imagine they're too happy about this. But this G League package includes up to $500,000 for non-draft eligible players, which are high school seniors. $500,000. If you offered me $500,000 my senior year, I ain't going to college, bro. Like, what? I could buy a college education anywhere with $500,000. And I mean, obviously, that's kind of the deal that Jalen Green will be looking at. I'm not sure about Isaiah Todd, but they also have developmental programs in place for these young athletes to not get worn and torn their first year. I mean, because Zion's usage rate at Duke probably had a lot to do with, his late start in New Orleans. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely would.
So, I mean, when they've put, like, the NBA has been thinking about this for probably a really long time. Like, I'd probably say at least the past 5 years, for how thorough and sound this alternative is for high school seniors.
For sure. And honestly, it doesn't just, like, this whole G League deal doesn't just impact, like teenagers or kids from the States, right? It impacts like all ballers from around the world. And so that's where I'm going to bring in my boy from the Philippines, Kai Soto. He's a 7-footer. Well, okay, so he's from the Philippines, but this last year he did move to Georgia this is a really weird name, the Scale Factory Prep School, to play against better competition, because no offense against Filipinos. Okay, actually, let me put this out there first. I am Filipino. my father and my mother are both from there, Manila and Quezon City. Look it up. It's the biggest cities in the Philippines. So there you go. And I've been there too. So I've seen the competition. I've literally played on the streets of Manila. Let me say that again. I've literally played on the streets of Manila, like in those outdoor courts. And you know what? It's tough, and it's a whole different brand of basketball. Cody, you've seen me play defense before. You kind of know how I grew up with, playing basketball and whatnot. Obviously, I was a football player too, so there's that. But imagine that kind of defense, but like way more amped, and like you got bigger guys, and I'll be honest, like everyone plays basketball in the Philippines, and it's huge, and that's great. But at the same time, Filipinos, biologically speaking and historically speaking, are definitely the shorter Asians in all of Asia. Like the shortest man in the world is Filipino. I think that's something worth saying. And so the fact that he's 7'1", like you really don't have to do a lot to be great at basketball in the Philippines. So coming to America was big. And so for Kai Soto to go into the G League and further develop and further, work out in American facilities and get physically stronger and more athletic, I think that's fantastic for him, because I don't think he is somebody that could go one and done in the NCAA or even in the G League. I think it's better for him to, face off against tougher competition now and, condition himself to the point where he could compete at the pro level. And so and there's no pressure because it's the G League, so I think this is a great opportunity for international prospects like Kai Soto to come in and get, that much better and further raise the, the level of competition in the NBA, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to back you up on that, especially because I'm not going to call scouts lazy, but it's easier to look in your own backyard for talent than it is to look around the world, right? I mean, you have to rely on other people's word and then your eyes, and then you have to fly out, and teams would, I'd say overall, unless you're talking about a Luka Doncic or some other superstar, they're not going to go out of their way to scout them overseas, right? Or a Dirk. So moves like this for international players are huge. And also I've seen some film on him, and he has some pretty nasty handles for being 7 feet tall, dude.
Yeah, man. I mean, they got to give him the ball a ton because he's probably the only guy over 6, maybe 7 in the Philippines. So there you go. You got to learn how to handle the ball.
Yeah, so I'm definitely excited to see that perspective, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And I could see a lack of cooperation, and I want to see what happens to the relationship between the NBA and the NCAA following this proposition by the G League and this offer.
Well, here, let me ask you this question. Do you think the NBA cares if they take money from the NCAA?
No. No way.
Okay. All right.
Because, if there's one thing that I really, really like about Adam Silver, it's that he's one of the only commissioners I've ever seen that's a player first guy. Like, period. I mean, other unions have to work so hard for their players to get decent contracts, and the NBA contracts are fully guaranteed. There's lax policies on a lot of stuff that allows the athletes to have some more freedom. They had a meeting with the players to discuss whether they were playing or not. I mean, do you really think in the NFL they're going to ask the players first if they want to play? No, bro. The owners are going to tell them to put on their equipment and go out and play football. So, I mean, Adam Silver doesn't care if he's taking away money from the NCAA and giving it to athletes to play basketball for him and arguably make the G League a pretty strong brand here, not only in the United States, but internationally. I mean, I could see the G League being the first bridge to international competition in one league. Now I know that, FIBA exists and, the Toronto Raptors aren't in America. But I mean, for one league based out of America to have teams from other nations competing as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely get that. I mean, honestly, even with just the Kai Soto pick, like, I mean, okay, so obviously I'm still pretty well connected with my own family, and for those of you who don't, for
I'm
those of
glad to
you
hear
who
that you
don't
still
know,
care about your family, Simon.
no, for sure. But for those of you who don't know, so right now it's kind of always been like this, but other than my two brothers and my mom, the rest of my family, for the most part, is in the Philippines. I don't have any other relatives in the States. So I know that they watch basketball and they've followed Kai Soto for a while. They put me onto him. I first heard about him, I would say, sometime last year from a relative. And I could tell you right now that they love the fact that he's going to the G League because it's not quite the NBA. We get that. And, college basketball is a whole different thing and there's restrictions there. But the G League is a little bit more international friendly, I would say, or at least it appears that way. And so I could guarantee you that there's basically a whole nation that will tune in to watch not just Jalen Green, because we've all known, the Philippines have known that Jalen Green is that dude, but Kai Soto as well. Kill it potentially, or get better in the G League and grow. And that's a big thing. And I'm gonna backtrack to that Jalen Green comment. I don't know if I said this already, but he is half Filipino, and he has come to the Philippines to play. Oh my gosh, multiple exhibition, like a ton of exhibition games against some of the pro leagues here not here because I'm not in the Philippines, but in the Philippines. And to the Filipino people, that means a lot because the dude's been checked hard by some of the guys. Like, dudes want to play against this dude, physical against him. And Jalen Green, when he was there, he embraced it, and he embraced Filipino basketball and culture. And I could honestly say that Filipino basketball is a huge thing, and it's the most popular sport in the Philippines, even with Manny Pacquiao being as successful as he is as a boxer. Basketball still runs the Philippines, I would say. And I could guarantee you right now that they will support the G League as much as they can, and that's awesome.
Certainly. I mean, he kind of hit the nail on the head, so there wasn't a whole lot that I needed to say. But yeah, I don't really got anything else on the G League.
So, okay, well, let's talk about the NCAA a little bit here before we head out. Do you think this hurts NCAA basketball or potentially helps it? I've heard both arguments.
I think it hurts it. I mean, they just lost their number one recruit to the G League. I mean, imagine if they lost Zion to the G League, and they already lost LaMelo Ball to overseas. So the more options that there are, the more it hurts the NCAA. I'd say maybe in the short run, but people also love competitive basketball. And if you have less stars, I guess, then that makes for more tightly contested March Madness. But March Madness is already really competitive, so I don't know exactly where the positives are, I guess. Where have you heard what positives have you heard for the NCAA?
So I've heard that, teams might be able to gel a little bit better together without having those one and doneers. You know what I'm saying? So they'll have guys or teams that have played together for a while and are committed to be there and get better there for a while. So there's potential to see possibly better team basketball and potentially, honestly, better upsets, because the playing field is a little bit more level now. And, that could be a great thing. You could see, honestly, potentially a University of Northern Colorado upset possibly one of the Cali teams, because I know some of those California teams really do rely on, one and doneers, or even some of the more blue blood type of teams, So I've heard that essentially this levels the playing field and makes things a little bit more exciting because, ballers are ballers either way. Eventually someone's going to have to rise up to the plate and, be the star of NCAA basketball.
Fair enough. I mean, I certainly get it, but I definitely think from a marketing standpoint, the NCAA loses out on just those big players. And I mean, they lose out even more. And it's funny that they changed their policy on athlete, profitability just to still lose to the G League, you know? So who knows?
We both knew it wasn't enough.
I mean, this is true, but it's the NCAA might finally learn something. No, they're not going to learn anything, but they'll do what they need to do to survive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they'll still be okay. They still make billions of dollars a year. It's not like it's the worst hit.
It could go down depending on how big this G League thing gets. But we'll stay tuned for that and how big it gets. And listeners on the cycle will be the first to know when next year's top 5 recruits go to the G League.
That's very true. It'll be really interesting to see moving forward. So, coming up next, we have a really interesting concept that we made up last night, basically. And it's going to be called our Fantasy Fictional Draft. I'll explain it more in the next segment coming up.
Welcome back to the Cycle 365, episode 32, recorded May 13, 2020. I am one of your hosts, Cody Stauffer.
I'm the other one, Simon Villanos.
And joining us now for this special segment is our other co-host, Jesse Booten. Jesse, would you like to tell them what we're doing?
Yes, I would, Cody. All right, so as they just said, I am Jesse Booten. Welcome to the Cycle. We are going to do a bit of a fun segment here that we came up with. We are going to draft a football team based on superheroes and just characters that are not football players and have all these magical powers, and it's going to be really fun. We'll see who has the best team. Cody's been bragging all day that he's going to have the best one, so we'll have to see. Anyways, I will lay out the parameters here and let you viewers know what we're going to be drafting from, and we have a draft board all set up, but this is what it's going to be, and then we'll jump right into it. So we're going to draft 11 offensive players today. We are going to do 11 defensive players next week, so make sure to tune in for that. The parameters are you can't pick characters from you can't pick the same characters, so no alternate universe duplicates. Like you cannot just draft a full team of Supermans from different universes. That would be definitely not fair. Each character will come with everything that person has, including armors, power, weapons, and with that sort. But we are not going to be doing killing. Obviously, no killing because this is a family show. So there are limitations, but most of the characters have them, and we will see what happens. There will be 1 minute on the clock for each pick. I believe we are doing all 11 picks, well, all 33 between us three in this segment, and then we will go into more of an overview in the next segment. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, you guys got anything else to say about it, or did I cover it?
Nailed it.
Let's do it.
With the first pick of the 2020 Fantasy Football League. Fictional Fantasy Football League. It's a mouthful. The Titan Moons will select Dr. Fate, quarterback out of DC Comics. Now, Dr. Fate, this is a guy who can literally warp reality to however he sees fit. He's higher on a lot of draft boards because he's much more powerful than Doctor Strange, and his telepathic powers allow him to throw the ball wherever, and if anyone should try and intercept it, he can simply cast a portal and put the ball somewhere else. His telepathic and telekinetic powers also allow him to read the minds of all of the defenders and know exactly what they're going to throw at him. This is just a few examples of the high potential that Dr. Fate will have en route to multiple league MVPs in this league.
Interesting. All right. So the second overall pick in the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, the Winterfell Star Killers select Thanos on the planet of Titan. 6'7", 700-pound left tackle is going to beat up anybody who tries to come after the quarterback and the running back. Look, man, if this was an actual draft show, this is the film we would be playing. We would be playing the fight he had with the Hulk, where he played around with him before beating him into the ground and forcing him back to his planet like the beta he is. Look, man, Thanos, he is considered the savior among multiple worlds. He is the world snapper, the galaxy snapper. And you know what? There was only one possibility where he lost out of billions. And so that basically means that he has a 99.9% success rate as a blocker. both as a pass blocker and a run blocker. And you know what? If his physical attributes don't, live up to the hype, then obviously the Infinity Gauntlet does, where he could literally beat down anybody in any universe. So yes, Thanos to the Winterfell Star Killers.
Excellent choice.
All right. And with the third pick in the Cycle 365 Fantasy Football Draft, the Comet Commanders take the Flash at running back.
Ooh.
Straightforward. You see him, now you don't. No one will be able to catch this running back out of... I mean, he's from the Earth. He was just genetically mutated by a nuclear blast. But he's the perfect fit for this offense that's going to light it up on the scoreboard. And again, we have no film on this running back because he was too fast for cameras to catch. So good luck defenses catching him out. Yes, the Flash will be playing running back for the Comet Commanders.
All right. Good pick, by the way, Jessifer.
So with the fourth pick in the fantasy draft that the wonderful CycleCast 365 cast is doing, the Comet Commanders take Captain America, quarterback.
Dang.
This guy right here can, he's basically a superhuman, genetically made in a lab, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he knows how to be a leader. He's commanded an army against the good old Thanos that was drafted just a few minutes earlier. He brought him down with the help of his friends, obviously. But this guy just knows what to do. He can take charge of an offense, and he's also a freak athlete. So look for him to do great things for the Commanders.
That one hurt, not gonna lie.
No problem.
So, with the 5th overall pick in the fantasy fictional football draft, the Winterfell Star Killers select quarterback Superman from the planet Krypton or from Smallville, USA. So, here's the thing. Y'all have heard of Cam Newton before, right? This is the OG Superman, or arguably the strongest character in all of universes, obviously. We all know about his superhuman strength, his superhuman speed, his vision, all of the different kinds of visions. And you know what? That puts together a fantastic dual threat quarterback who can dominate on the field, especially with left tackle Thanos blocking for him. That's unstoppable for the Winterfell Star Killers. So yes, Superman to the Winterfell Star Killers at number 5.
All right. With the 6th pick of the Cycle 365 fictional draft, the Titan Moons will select Saitama, otherwise known as One Punch Man. I tell you what, when this guy gets the ball, all it takes is one stiff arm and he's going to the house. Nobody has ever survived one stiff arm from Saitama, hence the name One Punch, because that's all it takes for this guy to get to the house. He also has displayed superhuman speed, superhuman strength, on levels equal to or exceeding Superman. And I tell you what, I don't think he will get tackled once all year, because any defender who tries to step up will be flattened immediately.
Nice.
Oh, wait, it's my pick again?
Yeah, you're up again.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Hey. All right. And with the 7th pick of this draft, the Titan Moons will select Doomsday, left tackle out of DC Comics. Doomsday has been said to be an immovable object, and that's exactly what we'll hope to do with him here. Nobody will get past him as he's basically a brick wall. He also has spikes sticking out of his body, so it wouldn't be wise for someone to try and engage him hand-to-hand. And he could definitely bulldoze anybody lead blocking, having been against the likes of Superman on the strength front. So he will lead the way run blocking, and he will keep Dr. Fate nice and clean in the passing game.
So, with the 8th overall pick in the fantasy fictional football draft, the Winterfell Star Killers select running back Goku from planet Vegeta. Look, this guy grew up on the planet Earth, but he is no scrub. He is one of the most powerful characters of all time. If y'all have ever checked out, is it Death Battle, right?
Indeed.
Am I right there? Yes, Death Battle. he went face to face with Superman. Now he's pulling a KD, or actually he's pulling a LeBron, and he's joining Superman on the Winterfell Starkillers to form one of the most potent backfields in this entire league. Now, this is a guy who has both speed and power and has faced off with multiple characters and heroes and villains that are much stronger than him at first sight. But now he's playing for the Winterfell Starkillers.
All right, with the 9th pick in the fantasy fictional football draft, the Comic Commanders take the Beast out of Beauty and the Beast, left tackle. Now, this guy, he is an athlete. He does have fur all over him, but he is ferocious, but he knows how to take care of someone. So look for this guy to block well and make sure he keeps Captain America just as clean as he did keep his lover Princess Belle. So yes, left tackle, the Beast out of Beauty and the Beast.
Great pick.
All right, and then with the 10th pick in the fantasy football draft, the Comic Commanders take Loki, bad guy out of the Marvel Universe. He will be playing wide receiver. Now, the reason this pick comes in this early is, as a number 1 receiver, Loki can duplicate himself into, I don't know, how countless number of himself, really, so defenders will not know which one is the actual one. But Captain America and him are on the same page. They, for a point, Loki kind of was an Avenger, so they're definitely on the same page. So Captain America will know where to get the ball. So Loki, receiver, the Comic Commanders.
With the 11th overall pick in the fantasy fictional football draft, the Winterfell Starkillers select the first female at wide receiver, Captain Marvel, out of Earth, actually. So here's the thing: she's been disrespected for a really long time now because Marvel fan gatekeepers love to be sexist. This is undoubtedly one of the strongest superheroes, arguably the strongest Avenger in the whole Marvel cinematic universe. And you know what? She has electrifying speed, she has fantastic power, and she has great hands. That electrifying speed will play a huge role when catching balls from likes of Superman, and she is somebody that can take an end around to the house. Easy.
Fair enough. With the 12th pick, we are going to see another wide receiver taken off the board. We're going to see Sonic the Hedgehog, drafted by the Titan Moons. Now, Sonic, we all know he's a hedgehog and he's fast, but how fast can he go? No one really knows. He moves as fast as we need him to go. And this is another guy similar to the Flash, who he just fell a little bit because a lot of critics say that he's a bit undersized, but what he lacks in size, he makes up with great athletic ability, with his capabilities of jumping dozens of feet into the air on top of his magnificent speed, and his start-stop speed is amongst the best. Back to the Titan Moons, they will select another pass catcher. At tight end, they're going to select Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse, he's been around for a really long time, since the Egyptian time, so he's got some experience on his side, and he knows what to bring to this offense. He has incredible strength and incredible durability, and he also can see into the future, so he knows what the defense is going to come at him with, and he can also speak telepathically to Dr. Fate, so they will have great chemistry straight out of the gate, and what should be an unstoppable pair on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. It's the 14th overall pick in the fantasy fictional draft. The Winterfell Starkillers select Heimdall out of Asgard. Now, this guy is 7'2", and he is arguably one of the stronger Asgardians, as he's protected Asgard for a really long time, as he will protect the likes of Superman. He will play right tackle, so he'll help shore up this offensive line. He's making an emphasis on winning the ball. The Winterfell Starkillers at the 14th overall pick.
With the 15th pick in the Cycle 365 Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, the Comic Commanders take tight end Optimus Prime, a Transformer. Now this guy he is a monster. I mean, he can turn into a truck, turn back into a human. He's taller than everyone we've drafted so far. I think he is the biggest person drafted so far. He's way over 7'1" or whatever. He's probably like 14'6". So this dude, he can stand up there, and as Madden likes to call it, Captain America can throw the ball up there where the kids can't come get it. So with the 15th pick, Optimus Prime to the Comet Commanders at tight end. Then, with the 16th pick in the fantasy football draft, the Comet Commanders take Mr. Incredible, right tackle, out of Disney. He's strongest man there is. He's a big body, and he can move pretty well. So I think this will shore up both edges of the line with Mr. Incredible on the right and the Beast on the left. I think there are two physically gifted specimens that can move pretty quick. As we can see, this Comet Commander offense is turning into kind of a track team. It's a very speedy team with some big names. So look forward to these guys putting it to the competition.
With the 17th overall pick in the fantasy fictional football draft, the Winterfell Star Killers select guard out of Gotham City, Bane. Now here's a guy who's a real bruiser down low. This is somebody who will help out Goku in the run game as well as Superman. Somebody who has famously broken the back of Batman and has run Gotham City numerous times. But sadly, he has played for a pretty terrible organization as he's taken the most L's. And now he's coming to a very successful program in the Winterfell Star Killers at number 17.
With the 18th overall pick, the Titan Moons are going to select guard Juggernaut out of the X-Men Academy of Marvel. Now, Juggernaut, this is a guy that once he gets moving, he doesn't like to stop moving. So we will see the Juggernaut pulling a lot from the guard position and lead blocking for Saitama. So even if defenders thought about getting near Saitama, they won't have the chance with the Juggernaut leading the way. He does weigh over 400 pounds, and he has been compared to some of the strongest people in the universe. Which leads me to the 19th pick at right guard, which will be the Incredible Hulk. Now, the Hulk has fallen quite a bit in this draft, to a lot of people's surprise, but the Titan Moons are going to shore up their offensive line by taking care of the run game and keeping their running back Saitama untouched. The Incredible Hulk was once thought to be the strongest that there was, but his draft stock definitely took a dip after the pounding that Thanos gave to him. But with a position change over to the offensive side of the ball, where he will be leading and allowed to be aggressive at the guard position, the Titan Moons are hoping to maximize the Hulk's value.
With the 20th overall pick in the fantasy fictional football draft, the Winterfell Star Killers select Hercules, center out of Olympus. Now, here's a guy who's made multiple appearances in a variety of universes, but he is somebody most known for Disney, I would say. Well, for the most part. He is half god, to say the least, and he has wrestled with the best of them, including Hades and the famous Titans that he did end up whooping and putting back in their place. Now, here's a guy that we'll put at center who's very smart and athletic overall. He's somebody who some might say is comparable to Superman in a lot of ways. He will continue to shore up that offensive line for the Winterfell Star Killers at the 20th overall pick out of Olympus.
With the 21st pick in the fantasy football draft, the Comet Commanders take wide receiver Spider-Man out of the Marvel Universe. He can snag really any ball out of the air. Doesn't matter where it is. This dude, if it's thrown anywhere in his vicinity, even if it's thrown on the other side of the field, this dude can still go out there and catch the ball. He'll be a great addition to the skill position for the Comet Commanders. They really got a guy that's not going to drop the ball ever. They're going for possession, and he'll get that done for them. So Spider-Man, wide receiver to the Comet Commanders. Which brings me to my 22nd pick for the Comet Commanders in the 2020 fantasy football draft. The Comet Commanders take right guard Reinhardt out of Overwatch. This dude's got a shield that can, put out and block everybody in the vicinity on the defensive line. Also, when he gets pulling, he has a move where he just shoots himself, I don't know, maybe about 15 yards, and anyone in his way is bashed out of the way. So leading the way with the pulling guard of Reinhardt should get the Flash just the little space he needs to bust open to the end zones. Right guard Reinhardt out of Overwatch to the Comet Commanders.
Right. With the 23rd overall pick in the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, the Winterfell Starkillers select Aaron Yeager, left guard out of Attack on Titan. Look, at first glance, he's pretty scrawny. But wait for him to turn into Titan form, and he is one of the strongest and most aggressive characters you will ever find across all the universes. He's somebody who, at first sight, coming out of the league or coming out of college or whatever, is pretty raw, but he has refined his skill, and he's been getting better, and he is one of the biggest linemen that the Winterfell Starkillers have selected to further protect Superman, as if he needed any more protection.
With the 24th pick in the draft, the Titan Moons will select wide receiver Carnage from Marvel. Now, I know that the Titan Moons wanted Spider-Man. He is the golden boy, and he definitely stole the show, both from New York University, Spider-Man and Carnage. However, the Titan Moons are still happy with this Carnage pick. Now, he has some off-the-field issues, being a schizophrenic, homicidal character, but they're hoping that they can get him to play a bit more disciplined, and he also has a lot of the same capabilities that Spider-Man has, and plays even a bit more tenacious. He doesn't avoid contact, he will just run through you, and the Titan Moons are happy to select him. So, with the 25th pick, the Titan Moons are going to stay consistent along Marvel on this front line and take at center the Thing. Now, Ben Grimm, as he was formerly known, Ben the Thing Grimm, he's solid rock, and he's one of the strongest there is, and for once he'll be blocking alongside the likes of Juggernaut and Hulk, making for definitely one of the strongest interior lines that we've ever seen. The Thing was also a rocket scientist and engineer, so he's definitely smart enough to read a defense, and will be looking to help out the quarterback by calling out the blitz coverages in case Dr. Fate was sleeping and not paying attention to the minds of them.
With the 26th overall pick in the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, the Winterfell Starkillers select fullback Thor from Asgard. Now, this is an interesting strategy that the Winterfell Starkillers are taking here, because obviously they want to run the triple option. So you might as well have basically gods at every level, with Superman at quarterback, Goku at running back, and then Thor at fullback. This is a guy who's bailed out the Avengers multiple times, has killed Thanos at least once that we know of. So this is an excellent pick for the Winterfell Starkillers. They select another very much godly-like person to join their squad.
All right, and with the 27th pick in the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, the Comet Commanders select center Bowser out of Nintendo Smash Bros. Bowser's going to fit in perfectly on this line with Reinhardt, Mr. Incredible, and the Beast. He's smart. He's got a big body, and he can move people around. He's got a devastating attack where he flips on his shell and spins around, just mangling anybody in his way. So I think Bowser will be a great addition to this line at center. He can definitely pick out the blitzes. He is a dinosaur, but he's one of the smart dinosaurs. So Bowser, center to the Comet Commanders. All right, and with the 28th pick in the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, this pick might come as a surprise to most experts, but wide receiver General Grievous out of Star Wars. This dude has 4 arms. He can move his body whatever way he wants it to be. So throw it in his vicinity. You can even throw 4 footballs at him. He'll catch all 4 for 4 touchdowns. So this receiver out of Star Wars, first Star Wars taken off the board here, will be a great fit for the pass-heavy Comet Commanders offense.
I'm sorry. What a catch radius, am I right? All right.
Yeah.
With the 29th pick in the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft, the Winterfell Starkillers select the chosen one himself, wide receiver out of Tatooine, Anakin Skywalker. Now, here's a guy that a lot of people would say is kind of a diva. You know, he was labeled the chosen one at a pretty young age. His story is pretty inspirational as he was a slave at one point. But now he is considered the hero of the Republic. And if you want to go that way, as well as the defender of the Empire. He's somebody who has all the natural talent in the world. And he will see more success catching balls from the Man of Steel himself, Superman.
Bro, if you wanted to go sad NFL story, you could have been like, his mom was slaughtered by sand people and his wife died during childbirth. The guy has a lot of burdens to carry on his shoulders, but he's not afraid to carry them and play with swag. Or something stupid like that.
I really thought about doing it, but I was like, I'm going to just chill at the slave part and then be positive. Because that's a lot already. Yeah. Nobody else was a slave that we've drafted so far.
I don't think anyone else.
So there you go.
That's so foul. Anyways, okay, so that was your thing. Okay.
What are your last two picks?
All right, with the 30th pick, one of the last two for the Titan Moons. The Titan Moons select at right tackle Roadhog out of Overwatch. This Junkertown resident has seen the apocalypse and made it through. He stands at an astounding 6'7" and easily weighs over 300 pounds. Roadhog, he may be called for a lot of holding penalties with the hook that he likes to use to bring defenders close to him, but should he get away with that, he does have a lot of raw talent, and also his super move allows him to just push people away, and this is a guy who never, ever, ever gets tired. And with the last pick of the first round for the Titan Moons select The Mask. Now, this is a guy who flew underneath a lot of radars, seeing that he was a product of the Dark Horse to DC Comics merger. He flew really under the radar. However, The Mask, as an offensive weapon, not even going to label his position. He can play wide receiver, running back, or quarterback. He alters reality by simply turning everything around him into a cartoon in which he's capable of absolutely anything. Good luck trying to slow down this guy.
With the last pick in the fantasy fictional football draft for the Winterfell Star Killers, they select a hybrid wide receiver, running back, and quarterback, Silver Surfer, out of the Marvel universe. Sure, yes. Here's a guy with arguably a ton of natural speed. He could definitely run with the fastest in this league. He travels at a minimum of 8,750,000 miles per hour, which means he travels, I'm not going to say that number because I can't, at least trillions more faster than the speed of light. He's somebody who could play wide receiver, running back, quarterback. He could do it all. He's a very versatile weapon that the Winterfell Star Killers will happily select with their last overall pick.
And that brings us to the final pick of the first round of the Fantasy Fiction Football Draft. And with the 33rd pick in the draft, the Comic Commanders select left guard Sully from Monsters, Inc. Now, this guy, he's not going to be very mean, but he's definitely going to fill some holes. I mean, he's going to get that big body out there and not let any defensive tackle through this stacked line that the Comic Commanders have made. And again, he may not be the biggest lineman in this draft, but again, as we can look at this Comic Commanders offense, they're going for speed, and he fits right into that category. He's a smaller guy, but he's definitely going to be able to keep up with that high flying, fast paced offense and get it done on the inside. So Sully, Monsters, Inc., left guard for the Comic Commanders with the final pick in the first round of the Fantasy Fictional Football Draft.
Coming up next, we react to each other's offensive picks.
Welcome back to the Cycle 365. This is episode 32 that we are recording on May 13th, 2020. It's a Wednesday. So now we're going to react to the teams that we've drafted. You already kind of heard some of our reactions in the last segment, but this time we'll get to, really, really dig deep. So let's start with the person who went number one overall, which is Cody. Cody, so with me and Jesse's teams, what are some strengths and weaknesses that you see?
Well, I mean, Thanos is a great pick at left tackle and definitely deserved to be the second one off the board. Arguably could have been the number one pick in this draft. Same deal with Superman. You have two basically god tier level offensive weapons. I would say that the only weaknesses that I could potentially see on this line is potentially Bane at right guard. I know that he's a bit undisciplined, especially when he gets that adrenaline high. He may commit a lot of penalties, but I'm definitely intrigued to see where this offense goes with the backfield, especially of Thor and Goku. Thor could definitely lead block. He knows how to hit. And, you have the chosen one who can use the force to get the ball into his hands. And then for Jesse's team, I talked about this a bit during the break. I wanted to take the Flash. I should have taken the Flash number one overall. He is stupid fast, like insanely fast. And, that's going to be hard. I'm definitely going to have to address that on the defensive side of the ball somehow, some way, because realistically with this offensive line of Disney characters along with Reinhardt, I mean, the Comet Commanders can run the ball all day, honestly. And then when they want to pass the ball, they have guys who have hands. Not a lot of speed on the outside, but one of them has 4 hands. So definitely interesting picks for the Comet Commanders. I see a lot of strengths. I do know that these Disney guys have a hard time hanging in with some of these other really highly powered guys that we may see go on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see how they handle the comic book pressure on the Comic Commanders.
Yep, I would definitely agree with Cody. Just going over the Comic Commanders real fast. Definitely looking at this team. Offensive line will be a weakness, but the goal was to just get the ball out of there before that's even worried about. So I think that's what they were going for.
So Jesse, you talked a little bit about the Comic Commanders. Now, what are your thoughts on the other two teams here?
I do want to say I'll start with the Winterfell Star Killers. I was going to try and take Bane in this draft for my center, but he was taken for the right guard of the Winterfell Star Killers, and I think that'll be a great pick. Yeah, I agree with you, Cody. I think this is a pretty good offensive line, I think, coupled with Superman at quarterback. I mean, if Superman's your quarterback, you can basically do anything you want. I really like the Hercules pick at center. I think that's going to go on a fly under the radar pick as this season comes into play. I think he will definitely prevail as probably one of the best underrated offensive linemen in this draft. I think him and Thanos are the two best offensive lineman players, and then both on this Winterfell Star Killers team. So I think that'll be interesting to look at. One weakness I do see in this I guess team is the fact that, I don't know, Thor, I think, yes, he'd be a good fullback, but I think he lacks, I don't know, just the mental capacity to play in an offense. He seems like he kind of wants to take everything into his own hands all the time, and I think that could hurt this Winterfell Star Killers team with all of the other players they have that can make plays. I think Thor is going to be feel left out and cause a locker room issue. So look for that going forward.
There are definitely some guys who like power, such as Thor, Anakin Skywalker, and Thanos. So we'll see how that transpires in the locker room.
Yeah, there could be a lot of kind of a power pull, and we'll see what happens there. It could either work in the Star Killers' favor, or it could destroy their whole team. So we will see what happens. And then the Titan Moons. I mean, this offensive line is probably the biggest offensive line I've ever seen in my life. So I think that is huge for this Titan Moons team. Although wide receiver might be a bit of a weakness here for the Titan Moons. I know Dr. Fate can just put the ball wherever he wants to, but besides the likes of Sonic, I'm not sure how well these receivers will do. So we'll have to see that going forward.
We'll definitely be leaning on our tight end Apocalypse to pick up some of the slack in the passing game, because he's the only one who's above 6 foot out of all the pass catchers, and we're hoping that the Mask can step into the passing game and make some plays as well. But yeah, we're definitely a bit small at wide receiver.
All right, and that is it. So go ahead, Simon. Talk about your team a little bit, and then we'll go over the other two teams.
All right, well, I feel like I gotta defend the honor of my team. I know we have some questionable characters, but we'll have a good coach. We don't know who the coach is yet. We're in the process of hiring a good leader who could control the locker room. Also, I like to point out that Superman, Goku, Hercules, and Thanos are all great leaders and have demonstrated great leadership, whether they were right or wrong. So I will definitely be relying on them to keep the likes of Anakin Skywalker and Thor in check. I could see where the lack of appeal is sportsmanship-wise with some of my squad. But, we'll announce the coaching staff at a later date. How about that? All right. So with that out of the way, I'm going to talk about Jesse's team first. So I'm just going to say I feel like this team reminds me a lot of a very Bill Belichick Patriots-like offense. First off, you got the All-American and Captain America. This guy, if there was a hero that would be Tom Brady, it would be this guy. He was an underdog. Obviously, we saw what he looked like before he roided up, and now he's a hero. Yes, now he's a hero. So I love his leadership. I love Optimus Prime's leadership. With that deep booming voice. Just the leadership on this squad is pretty good. And then Spider-Man, he's a good guy. So you got a lot of guys who are who are just good people. There's a lot of leadership on this squad. So I like it. I guess if I was to say one weakness, and y'all already talked about it, but the Disney leagues, they're the equivalent of the Pac-12 of linemen, I would say. Arguably, they got to prove themselves. I would say that maybe there is a lack of nastiness on the line outside of Bowser, probably. So that's the only thing I would have to say. But yeah, other than that, it's a very well-rounded squad with a lot of leadership, and it's a very, very Bill Belichick, New England Patriots-esque, if I might say.
I will say, Simon, who has won the most championships the last 10 years in the NFL?
True. Oh,
the Patriots. So that's what we're going for. If that's what we got. That's what we got.
It's the Commander way.
Hey, that's fair. But the Winterfell Star Killers consider us the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've had success in the past with some big names as well. So, with Cody's team, I just wanted to say I didn't know you knew One Punch Man like that, because he was somebody I definitely wanted. Low-key, he could be the best running back in the entire league. I really, really wanted him, and then you picked him with your second pick, so that was a little disappointing, at least for me. Honestly, y'all already hit on it. The lack of height on the squad. I don't see a ton of people outside of Apocalypse who could be jump ball type of guys, so that might be an issue. But other than that, I'm looking at a pretty solid run game with a very accurate quarterback and a nasty offensive line, to say the least. So, yeah.
Oh, they'll be nasty, hopefully just not towards each other.
That sounds like a personal problem for you, so we'll see.
Now,
but yeah.
I wanted to take the time and talk about one under-the-radar pick for each team. One player that we haven't really talked about per team. So I'm going to start with the Star Killers. I will say Captain Marvel, kudos to her for being the first female in...
Only female.
First and only so far. But I got you. Captain Marvel is definitely a wide receiver that I wanted to look at. Definitely exceeds the capabilities of some of my wide receivers, especially in the flight game. And, actually electrifying hands. So we'll definitely see Captain Marvel make some plays. And then over on Jesse's team, Loki, he's a trickster. I think that he's going to throw off a lot of cornerbacks, just because he's really deceptive. He can look one way and then be on the other side of the field. So look for those two wideouts to make lots of plays for these two teams.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You want to go, Jesse?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. All right, so for the Winterfell Star Killers, I think an underrated guy that we haven't really talked much about is, we didn't really bring up the Silver Surfer at all. He is an offensive weapon. He can play anything. He can play receiver, running back, He could even step into tight end if he needs to. He's pretty solid there, and so yeah, I think the Silver Surfer will catch a lot of people by surprise and definitely be a guy to look forward to playing against and stuff like that. And then for the Titan Moons, I gotta say, we've talked about this offensive line a ton, and I just want to key in on one guy. I think Doomsday is going to be a great pick. I didn't even realize he was on the draft board, but now that I look at it, that's an outstanding left tackle, and I think that he will really be one of the best tackles. I think he's on the level of Thanos for offensive linemen, so I think that was a great pick.
So, Cody's team, Titan Moons, I'd have to say the wide receiver Sonic, shortest character drafted, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's definitely the shortest character drafted in this fantasy fictional draft. He's the definition of 99 speed and agility. You know, he's somebody who, honestly, he could be wherever you want him to be, and I think that's somebody who's a real deep threat. You know, he has Tyreek Hill-like speed, probably faster because he's a hedgehog, and yeah. And then for Jesse's team, I don't think we really talked about Spider-Man as much, I would say, but this is a guy that I definitely had graded as the most reliable wide receiver in this entire draft. He will not drop the ball. If it touches his hands, I guarantee you it will stick. And it's not because of sticking, it's because he has great hands. And so I think I think this is somebody who, you know, is a reliable pass catcher, very Julian Edelman like, I would say, or Wes Welker like. So yeah, Spider-Man. Okay, so
I'd like to say
something. Go on.
I was gonna say, hopefully Sonic opens the door for fellow 3'3" aspiring football players.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, I mean he's a trailblazer, just like your fellow Star Killer's very own Captain Marvel. Very true. All right. So I want to ask y'all this question on your own team. So we're not going to talk about each other's teams just yet. But on your own team, who would you say is the most overrated player that you drafted?
Simon, would you like to start off since you came up with the problem?
Yes. Yeah, I'll go first. So, most overrated player I'd like to say is probably Anakin Skywalker. Look, you know, he's a very natural and gifted, you know, character altogether. But, you know, there's definitely some issues there. He has a baby mama that nobody knows about along with kids. Oh, and he definitely has some criminal tendencies if rocked the right way, you know? So, for the past 15 or so years, basically since he got rescued as a slave, he's been manipulated by this old guy who, it's a little predatorial, I'm not going to lie. It's a little predatorial, and there's definitely concerns there. So, hopefully he doesn't kill the entire team and their kids as well. So, that's someone who's a little overrated.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying. Pull KD if you're not careful. Very impressionable, I would say.
Well, on that note, I'll go ahead and pick up from where you left off. I definitely would say that Carnage is the most overrated player on this team. Not that he was rated super high, but you know, he's supposed to be just as good as Spider-Man, but he has some off the field issues, and additionally he sometimes just like pops out spikes, and that might get the Titan Moons into some Deflategate level trouble here. So definitely hope we can keep him in check. And I mean, he is everybody on this team is replaceable at this point, so if he slips up, we may see a different wide receiver take his place.
All right, and that'll bring it to me. I think my number one overrated player on this team is left guard Sully out of Monsters Inc. He's kind of a big teddy bear, so having that on the offensive line. Obviously, we've talked about how in this offense in this league we want nasty offensive linemen, and I don't think Sully's going to do that. He loves Boo, and Boo is just a little girl. So I think that Sully is the most overrated player on this Comic Commanders team. Look for him becoming a little soft as the season wears on. He might succumb to quite a few injuries, so we'll have to see what happens with Sully.
Sully finna retire early to spend time with his family, bro.
You're right. All right, so now I want to go ahead and go with each of you on the other two teams. Say who you think their MVP could be moving by the end of the year. I'll go ahead and start.
Go ahead.
I think we talked about this with the first overall pick in the draft. I think for the Titan Moons, Dr. Fate would be the MVP candidate here on this team. He could possibly be the best quarterback in this draft. I mean, I know Superman is on the Star Killers, but I want to have to go Dr. Fate as the Titans Moon MVP for this year. And then for the Winterfell Star Killers, I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel could definitely win MVP here for this team. She definitely has the advantage in the flight game, and I think with Superman throwing to Captain Marvel, I don't think there's much you could do. I think Captain Marvel and Superman are the two MVPs candidates you got to look for here on the Winterfell Star Killers.
What about your personal MVP? Go ahead and crown the commander.
I'm gonna have to go with the Flash. I think the Flash will get it done in the backfield. He can catch, he can run, no one will catch up to him. So I think the Flash would be the MVP for the Comic Commanders.
All right, I'll go ahead and go. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record here, but I think Captain Marvel is also my MVP for the Winterfell Star Killers. There's just things that she can do at the receiver position that not a lot of receivers can do, and she could break another barrier by being the first wide receiver MVP that we potentially see. So, as for the Comic Commanders, I'm also going to vote for another guy to break barriers, and that's Optimus Prime, potentially being the first tight end MVP. He's unguardable from what it seems. He has some of the best height in this league, and reliability is something that's hard to come across, and I'd argue that Optimus Prime is the most reliable fellow here in this league, and that's why I think that he has a chance to win league MVP as a tight end, just because he will have over 100% catch rate. Don't ask me how, but that's happening.
Wow.
You're right, Cody. I was be honorable mention for my team's Optimus Prime.
Absolutely. And, Optimus Prime is a guy who's also probably going to rake in Man of the Year, or I guess we're going to have to open the door and call it Living Being of the Year, I guess. Sentient Life of the Year, Optimus Prime.
Oh, man. Yeah. Did you say your MVP yet, or potential MVP?
Oh, my MVP is going to be Dr. Fate. It's he can do anything that anybody else in the league can do. It's incredible.
Right, fair enough. All right, so I'll start with yours, Cody. So for the Titan Moons, a potential MVP candidate would have to be One Punch Man himself, Sadama. Look, this guy's elite. He's one of the most elite running backs, or even just players in this entire league. And I think he's somebody who could get it done as a running back, as a receiver, and maybe even some Wildcat stuff there. You never know. For Jesse's team, for the Commanders, I would probably have to say Captain America could be a potential MVP. Look, he's a quarterback, All-American. He fits the stereotype. This MVP is basically made for him. If he performs, that's up to him though. So we'll see. And for my own team, look, I have all the love in the world for Captain Marvel. I think she'll be the best wide receiver in this league. At the same time, I know the voters, I have no idea who they are, but I know they're football fans. So so I'm just going to say it, the probability that they're sexist is pretty big. So unfortunately, I would probably pick Captain Marvel because I'm not sexist, but knowing the voters, I would probably have to say Superman. Look, he's another guy who's your stereotypical All-American. He's a quarterback. He could run it. He could catch it. He could throw it. He could do it all. And so, unfairly, I would say probably Superman, but deservingly Captain Marvel.
All right.
My final prompt, I want to go through each of your own teams and just say who you think is the biggest steal of the draft for your team. Who you think you got a steal on for how late you picked them or where you picked them, or who you think's going to be the steal of the draft for your team.
Okay. Do you want me to start?
I'll go ahead and go first since I know the thing. So for the Comic Commanders, obviously we have to go Optimus Prime. MVP candidate in the with the, I don't know, what would be that
in the making.
Middle of the first round pick. So I think Optimus Prime, who could be an MVP candidate, could definitely be the best pick in the draft. Or Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man might have to be. I think it's crazy that he fell as far as he did, and to take Spider-Man late into the first round is a huge steal.
All right, I'm gonna have to say that the biggest steal of the draft for my team is the Mask. I mean, the Hulk is a strong candidate, seeing that he fell to number 19, but we were stoked to get the Mask. We were banking on other teams just not being aware of him and hoping that our research paid off, and it did. And I think that the Mask could also potentially be an MVP candidate, seeing that he could play any position. And, you know, it's not necessarily what he can do, it's what he can make others not do. I mean, this guy has made people who want to tackle him start singing and dancing instead of doing their job. So he might just do the same to the rest of the league.
All right, so I will probably have to go with my last pick overall as well in the Silver Surfer. Look, speed kills, and you really can't teach speed. I was pretty surprised he dropped this far, but he's definitely somebody who could be just as fast as the best of them. He travels way faster than the speed of light. Intergalactic traveler, honestly, that's all I could say. And so, you know, that could be a really big advantage for the Winterfell Star Killers. He's very versatile. You can play quarterback, running back, receiver, maybe even some defense, but we won't go there. So yeah, probably the Silver Surfer. The Thor is pretty close too, though. At fullback, I'm getting reports from the coach that I'm yet to hire that he might not just play fullback, he might play some tight end as well. So you never know. All right, so here is my prompt. Out of all the players in this league, what two players will form the greatest rivalry in this league? I could go first if y'all want. But yeah, I'll go first. Okay, so I know we haven't drafted defense yet, so this is basically just offense versus offense type of rivalry. But I think Captain Marvel will form a rivalry with the likes of Loki and even Sonic, because she is the only woman in this entire league as of now. She is the only female wide receiver or player on the offensive side of the ball. So I feel like she will have something to prove, and she'll talk a lot of trash as well as put up big numbers for the Winterfell Star Killers. So yeah.
Jesse, you can go next.
I gotta look for a second.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay, I got one.
All right, go ahead.
I think a big rival we could see form here is, we've talked about it even during the draft itself, is the Hulk and Thanos. I mean, these are two big dudes that are going to both play offensive line, and they want to make sure that they are known as the best offensive linemen. And we've already seen the tussle between these two happen, where Thanos kicked the crap out of the Hulk, but we all know that the Hulk could definitely have a comeback. So I think having the Hulk and Thanos on separate teams is going to be a big issue, I think, where some big rivalries could be formed there.
Jesse, that's an excellent point, and I definitely was thinking for one of my biggest rivalries or beefs, it was the Hulk against everybody, because he seems to get mad at everything. But for my biggest rivalry, I'm going to have to go with Sonic and the Flash. These guys are both known for their world-renowned speed, and Sonic, you know, he plays every single down with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, it doesn't have to go too far up, because he is only 3'3", so he's definitely overlooked, you know, especially with the Flash being average male height. But, you know, Sonic, he's hoping to break down some barriers and prove that he really is the fastest. And that's why his slogan for his latest Adidas campaign is "Gotta go fast."
Sonic signed with Adidas?
Heck yeah, Sonic signed with Adidas.
Are y'all an Adidas club now or team now? Or
can't spell Titan Moons without 3 stripes, baby.
I will say that could lead to another big issue, because the Flash did sign obviously with Nike, so I think the Nike Adidas rival that could definitely come through as the season moves on. It'll
definitely feed into it.
Interesting. So that does it for this episode of the Cycle 365. Tune in next week, where we'll draft not only our defense, but potentially announce the coaching staffs. All right, so tune in next week, where Jesse will lead us off in the defensive draft for the Fantasy Fictional Football League. And yeah, I'm your co-host, Simon Villanos.
I'm Cody Stoffer.
And I'm Jesse Booten.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Star Killers.
Go Moons.